The land of fire and ice. The land of contrasts. The land of waterfalls, churches, and untouched nature. That all stands for Iceland. This country was on my top 5 never been to countries list for a long time. And because they've just started straight flights from Prague to Keflavik, and I had nothing better to do, I decided to go. I didn't really have plans, I just knew that I wanted to see as much as I could, and I didn't want to spend a fortune. Therefore, I decided to buy a tent and hitchhike all around the island. I packed my life into 12 kilos, stuffed it in a backpack, and I was ready to go. I took an almost 4-hour-long flight to Keflavik and immediately hitchhiked to Iceland's capital, Reykjavik. Despite the fact that it's the biggest Icelandic city and more than 1/3 of all Icelanders live here, there's nothing to do. So I went to see the famous church standing at 74.5 meters tall, which makes it the second tallest building in Iceland. Then I walked down to a concert hall called Harpa and finished at the Nevozhai sculpture. I was lucky that I got out of town pretty easily, so I had time to climb a mountain to look around and find some place to build a tent. The second day I went to see the most touristic attractions, such as Thingvellir, a national park which is a boundary between the North American and Eurasian tectonic plate. You would have seen this location in some episodes of Game of Thrones.
The mountains are impassable. If you want to get to the Eyrie, you need to go through the bloody gate.
Then Geyser, a geothermal area with erupting geysers and boiling mud pits. This one erupts every 4 to 5 minutes, but sometimes this is all you get. And finally the famous waterfall called Gullfoss. This place gets very crowded, but it's definitely worth it. Hitchhiking is actually a very good way to travel through Iceland. This always works very well, but sometimes there are no cars passing by, and that sucks. But at the end of the day, you'll always make it wherever you want to. Or somewhere you didn't even know that exists. For example, Skalholt, one of the most important Icelandic places in history, or this incredible waterfall called Hyfoss, which I still consider to be the most beautiful place in Iceland. Speaking of beautiful, I decided to walk the world-famous Laugavegur trek. I had plenty of time, so I made it to Landmannalaugar, where I was going to start, and walk all the way down to Skógar, which is 78 kilometers away. But I didn't have enough food, meaning I only had 3 days to make it. I spent a night in a camp and hit the path at 10 AM the next day. The first part of the trek was just amazing. Far-reaching lava fields, colorful mountains, steaming landscape, and a lot of suffering real. But then it started to rain. My first proper meeting with the notorious Icelandic weather. The rain was that heavy that I don't have any footage from now on. The second day I packed up my soaking wet gear and set off from Álftavötn, where I spent the night. I waded through some rivers, went through the Black Desert, and reached Tosmörk. Gotta admit that although it was the longest part of the trek, it was the easiest one. That is something I cannot say about the third part. From Tosmörk to Skógar was about 20 kilometers, and it was definitely the most difficult part, but the nicest one as well. It was so incredible to walk through this landscape. there was still a lot of snow, which didn't make my walk any easier. Last 10 kilometers I was just enjoying the surroundings, admiring nature around, and drinking right from the rivers. God, the water had never tasted better. So after 3 days of walking, I finished at Skogafoss and finally had a proper meal. From Skogafoss I continued east. Along the way I stopped to take a look at US Navy plane which crashed in the 70s and has remained here ever since as a tourist attraction. Not far from there I watched some puffins and enjoyed the view on Nevozhai. After that I took a day off in a town of Week. Then I took a nice little walk to Svartifoss, a waterfall with wonderful looking basalt columns. It lies just a few kilometers from the second largest glacier in Europe, Vatnajökull. Several lakes have been created as the glacier is receding from the Atlantic Ocean and slowly melting. The biggest one is called Jekursalon, and recently it became the deepest one as well. Nowadays it's 248 meters deep. The eastern part of the country is not that interesting. Therefore I had to go for more than 280 kilometers to Seyðisfjörður. I immediately fell in love with this little town. It has only about 600 inhabitants, but there was something I just liked about this place. Its port is very important because it's final destination for cruise ships and ferries coming from the continent. Also the surroundings are magnificent. I had to walk a few kilometers to get this iconic view I knew from postcards, and it was definitely worth it. When I left the town, I went north. I didn't want to miss a chance to see Dettifoss, the most powerful waterfall in Europe. And also Mývatn, a eutrophic lake well known for its nature baths. When going around, I climbed a volcano, and then walked in lava fields. I just wish I could have had better weather because I think that these views on the lake would have been even more stunning. Then I took a little turn to Húsavík, but there was nothing but whale watching offering offices. And that meant that I'm just one stop away from Akureyri. That stop was Godafoss, which literally means waterfall of the gods. It is a place where Christianity has been declared the official religion of Iceland. I spent 3 days in Akureyri. I was so happy to be there, because after 3 weeks of traveling, I was in a place that actually looked like a city. I walked the streets, ate street food, visited a mall, and enjoyed everything that the second largest city in Iceland had to offer. Then I found this botanical garden. Honestly, the flowers were in terrible condition, but that place was so peaceful, quiet and calming that I spent hours just sitting on a bench and chilling. My next plan was to go to Hvítárvík, but then I got picked up by some Icelander who said that I should see an island called Drangey, and so I did. I gotta say it was a really nice place to stay. I had a dip in a hot pot and then just watched the sun slowly hiding behind the mountains. In the morning I picked up my tent again. Wild camping is allowed in Iceland, but sometimes it's very hard to find a good spot, so you have to use campsite. You can find them pretty much everywhere. Some of them are better, some of them are worse. But it doesn't really matter because nights are cold in all of them. Even though I tried, I failed again and didn't make it to Hvítárvík. At least I could see this beautiful church. Third day of trying was finally successful. And maybe I was lucky that I didn't get here earlier because low tide just started, so I could walk around this basalt stack. My next steps headed west. I spent some time in Borgarnes and then went to Kirkjufell. This place seemed so familiar, and then I realized I saw this mountain in one of Game of Thrones episodes I watched just a few days before.
That's what I saw on the fire. A mountain like an arrowhead.
I truly understand why this country is so popular among filmmakers. I spent a night in Ólafsvík and I was ready to go back to the capital. As I was getting closer, I knew that I made it. More than 30 days on my own in a different country. More than 30 days in a country that speaks the language I've never heard before. More than 30 days I had to rely on the kindness of people that didn't have to help me, but they still did. And I'm extremely grateful for that. Because if it weren't for them, I would have never been able to see such a beautiful place.
I gained a lot of experiences. I went through good and bad. And sometimes I was even thinking, why am I doing this?
But I have always found an answer in some breathtaking place that I knew I could never see again. And now, when anybody asks me, how was Iceland? I'll say nothing. Because this country left me absolutely speechless.